What's up, Zox fam? Now, I want to get into something that I know that is absolutely a huge mistake that a lot of players are making, and I want to make sure that you guys actually understand why you want to avoid making this mistake. Now, if you look here, we just actually did a clear on Terramaton Hell 3, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that are really being emphasized here on the comp, right? So as far as that team, we were using the team, we had Heinrich, we had Valerian on there, Freya, and then of course, Klaus. Now, what's really important to note though, is that none of these units have a ton of investment outside of my Dating, which that took Evolution Lattice, right? Now, when we're talking about the pets, this is where I feel like a lot of players are making mistakes because we are using still, for example, Black Flag on my Heinrich. And one of the things that I noticed that a lot of players are doing is they're actually getting rid of all of their epic pets. Now, this is something that I've highlighted in previous videos, but I'm going to highlight it again because I think it is really important, right? Now, as you are climbing into some of these higher difficulties, we're actually able to do Shadow Flame Honyan now. There's one thing you'll notice when you hit level 50. Level 50 is going to basically open up to where you can still farm those epic shells, but they're going to be able to have the chance. If you read here, it says Sharon has a chance to drop shells with 3 matrix lines. So this means that now you can start getting shells with 3 matrix lines. This is really, really, really important, right? Because what this means is that as a free to play, you're still going to be able to get through certain pieces of content and still be effective, right? Because I don't think that a lot of players are realizing that it's not necessarily having mythics that's allowing players to clear. It's actually having the right shell in general. Because depending on who you're using, like take for example, you're doing the Dating strat. Dating actually requires there to be a certain amount of HP on the main body so that he can mark them. And if at any point that is not the case, he will mark the left arm, right? And that's something that is definitely going to cook your runs a lot of the times when you're trying to figure out how to tweak it as best as possible, so that you can get the most efficient, essentially clear, right? Now, to further explain the transition that you're basically going through, the one thing that I mentioned in previous videos was that you are going to be chasing White Fang first, right? Now, this is just following the same system that you've been following this entire time, where you've been building up your DPS, because your DPS are basically the determining factor in whether or not you're able to successfully clear something, because the more damage that they have from the base stat scaling, then that just makes it easier to get through most of your runs. Now, the thing with that is that with like things like White Fang comparatively to say something like Twilight Knight, right? The main difference is that White Fang is giving you direct damage to whatever it is that you're hitting, right? Now, if you're using someone that's not, say, Dating, then it's not going to necessarily matter nearly as much outside of the base stat scaling, and then, of course, the follow-up damage. But when you're using a character like Dating, you have to be aware that this says before the owner takes action, it deals 140% damage to an enemy with the lowest HP percentage. So you're trying to make sure somebody has the lowest HP percentage before this even happens, right? Because if this then goes and further reduces something, then now you're kind of cooking yourself there too. And granted, there's some instances where you can still use Twilight Knight, but you have to think about that. Versus like what White Fang says after the owner takes action, follows up on the main target. So whoever you're hitting, that's where the damage goes. Now, this means that you can, of course, for like most runs, there's typically on average about 2 DPSs that's being ran in Terramaton. So you'll see 2 White Fangs. And the reason why that is because it's going to, and one person will be faster than the main DPS, is so that they can actually have the follow-up, which is considered another hit, actually hit into the main body so that the Ting marks properly, right? So these are some of the things that you have to think about before you go and you start building certain characters. Now, I also want to talk about the cost, okay? Because I don't think a lot of players are grasping that for free to play, the cost is going to get out of hand. Like it really is. And you can respectively build up a good amount of shells based off of what you might have, right? But just note that if you're not refilling an insane amount, especially after the point of 40, you're not going to be farming nearly as much of that currency for the training data. So this means that for better practices, you're going to be trying to take advantage of the shells you already have. And a lot of the questions that I get a lot of the times is, should I be maxing out, or should I have a maxed out this or that, or should I be replacing this? My best piece of advice to those of you guys that are free to play and working your way up: keep things that are going to definitely help you with progression, right? And max them. So if you have a black flag, you should max them, because here's the other thing, right? When you go to the part of the game where now, well, hey, I can get 3 matrix bonuses and 3 slots, right? Or I can get 3 slots in general. You can just always imprint them into a better version. So the longevity of those shells are going to be quite immense for a lot of players as they're progressing and trucking through, because you have to remember that some of the people that are on the top clearing the leaderboards, and I just want to show you guys something, right? Because this is another thing. People are trying to copy the things that some people are doing. Be careful with what you're trying to copy, right? Because if you look here, and it's just kind of funny because I seen it earlier, but if you look here and like, say you're trying to copy something for Hell 4, do you really think you're gonna go in here and you're gonna just throw in Turin Dot and you're also gonna throw in Kachi and just clear this? That's not how that's gonna work, right? You have to remember, and when you look here at the Ting is actually using a whole nother set from a whole nother dungeon, and respectively so. You have to remember that as a free to play, you're not gonna be farming every single dungeon, and nor are you going to be able to get every single drop. You have to also keep in mind, this is very obvious, these are definitely paid drops, right? So these two are for sure, because there is a pack for it. So you have to just be aware of like what build somebody might have and what they're doing, right? Because otherwise you're going to basically cook yourself trying to replicate some of these things. The other thing is too, is that there's a certain level of lattice investment, and that might not be something that you have on your account. So a lot of the SSRs are really, honestly, especially the more of them that you see with certain names, those are definitely starting to push into well territory. And what's going to be the most efficient for you as a free to play is to try to take more advantage of the units that you have in your account that are SR, because 1, they're easier to build, and 2, they don't cost as much. And this is again just kind of going into the entire cost of not only just shells, but also leveling modules, etc. And I guess that's actually the last thing I want to talk about in this video too, is modules, okay? Because I think that the next thing that a lot of players try to do is they just try to replace every single thing. And this is why I've gotten comfortable with farming at Hell 2, and now I'm shifting into Hell 3, right? I was at Hell 2 for 2 days, which I was perfectly content with, because you know why? You need to farm substats. You're at the point in the game where you're trying to get more optimal substats. And the thing is that as you're climbing, yes, you can get access to higher matrices, which is really nice, but that does not guarantee that the piece is going to roll well. The other thing is too, is that yes, you can X out the anomaly of certain drops, but that is also such a insane scaled jump from where you're at currently. So say like you're doing Hell 1, but you're trying to aim to Hell 4. That's a big jump in difficulty, right? And so if you don't have the proper things, which you'll notice that there's a lot of people running characters with at least their whole team is at like plus 80 almost, minus maybe the DPS. If you don't have certain things, then it's going to be rougher. You might even see there's some people that are running their characters at like 122, 123, 129. That's something that's coming from either their RNG, so they might have had some pieces, or they actually took some time to actually try to find subs that made the most sense, just from rolling certain pieces. So you have to understand that now you're actually in that grind process. And so you don't want to jump up so high to where you're not actually really progressing. All you're really doing is just burning stamina and really just wasting stamina, because every single time you reset, remember, that's wasting a stamina, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I put this video out there, because even like with the gear pieces, like I said, if you look at my Valerian, I'm still using her. I'm clearing Hell 3 with her having epic pieces on, right? So there are certain classes or certain character types, I would say, that you don't have to go so crazy with trying to make sure their gear is perfect, because you can't farm everything all at once. So I'm going to spend some time in Terra Matan, get whatever gear I'm going to get out of there, and then I'm going to go and start building up more of my team comp for my Doki Doki, and then I'm going to shift into my Aurora team. This is just all going to be something that will naturally happen, and as you go, you will start to flesh out your pieces more often. And the thing is too, and what I'm really looking for is that the pieces that I'm looking for from like Terra Matan is going to actually help with some of the bulking that I'm looking for my Doki Doki team, because the the Wellspring set is actually going to be something I'm like, as you can see, I'm using on my Valerian. So me farming here is not only giving me some damage gear like the Keen Eye, but it's also going to be giving me that Wellspring, so I can have a base foundation to kind of start out with and then building into it, right? Now, of course, I would definitely say there's a lot of different ways that you can go about approaching which dungeon you start out with. It really honestly depends on what your account allows you to clear the most efficiently. So some people, it's going to be Terra Matan. For some people, it's going to be Doki Doki. And even for some, it might be Aurora. But the entire premise is that you aren't trying to scale so high that you're starting to operate as if you're a WoW when you're not, okay? So I just want you guys to like understand, yes, there's a couple of lucky free-to-plays that are like scaling certain content because they've made certain investment choices. They might have played some of the previous betas, so they were able to get through certain content a lot quicker. But if you're at a point where you're at a standstill, it's okay to be farming one thing and then you shift into the next thing, right? And like I said, don't just go and waste things because you might be able to actually use it. It really is going to be good to hold on to those things. So again, the black flags, whether it's let's actually go to them, right? Because I know somebody's gonna ask, so I might as well just answer the question, right? So we're looking at some of the ones previously that you just want to hold on to. It's going to be your black flags. You're definitely going to hold on to some diamond hearts in between. I would even say for some people, they're still going to make use of their Twilight Knights. There's some that like, okay, like they're like, well, you know, Gigabyte is amazing. Well, if you think Gigabyte's good, that means that you also think that Shanghai Jing is good, right? And granted, it's not nearly as much of a turn meter push, but this is still something that's going to allow players to be able to cut, working their way up, right? So this is just, again, food for thought, guys. I really want to make sure that you guys are just taking your time and you're actually doing things that's going to give you a linear progression. It's not just going to have you rubber banding or losing your brain or losing your mind trying to figure out what's going on with your account. But either way, guys, that's going to be that with this one. We'll be back streaming today, actually. So twitch.tv/Zoxaskun. Make sure you guys are there. But yeah, I just wanted to get this out because I feel like a lot of players are making this mistake. So yeah, guys, that's that. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.